The year-end party at Westfield Industries was winding down at 10 p.m., executive laughter fading into the winter night. Dylan Foster, janitor and single father, found CEO Vanessa Hart slumped alone in the parking lot, beautiful, successful, but completely drunk and abandoned. No one stopped to help. He made a choice that crossed every unspoken line, drove her Mercedes to his cramped apartment instead of her distant penthouse, settled her on his bed while he took the sofa, hoping his 7-year-old son Owen wouldn't wake up. At 11 p.m. that night, Vanessa stirred awake in the unfamiliar dim room. Dylan brought her water with shaking hands, apologizing for bringing her to his humble home. She stood unsteadily, eyes adjusting to the small space, then froze. On the shelf sat intricate wooden toys he'd crafted for Owen. On the corner wall, half hidden in shadow, hung a bronze metal frame from the National Design Innovation Award. Her gaze moved from the award to the tired man in a janitor uniform, then back to those extraordinary toys. What she said next, words slurred but eyes suddenly laser-focused, left Dylan standing speechless in his own living room, an offer that made no sense. A promise that could either rebuild his shattered life or destroy the little stability he'd fought to give his son. Dylan had been invisible for so long that being noticed felt dangerous. 3 years of pushing mop buckets through Westfield Industries' gleaming corridors had taught him the art of disappearing. His janitor uniform, his silent movements, his presence barely registered to executives who walked past without acknowledgement. The job paid enough to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table for 7-year-old Owen, who waited at home with Mrs. Chen most evenings. That was enough. It had to be enough. 3 years ago, Dylan's world had ended when his wife Lauren died in a car accident. Owen was 4, too young to remember her face without photographs. Dylan fell apart completely, and 6 months later, his colleague Vincent Palmer saw an opportunity. Dylan had been working on revolutionary toy designs, but Vincent leaked the concepts to competitors, then framed Dylan for corporate espionage. Henderson and Associates terminated him, destroying his reputation. The bronze award Dylan had won at the National Design Innovation Awards became meaningless overnight. No firm would touch him. By the time Dylan understood what happened, Vincent had been promoted on the strength of his stolen work. The janitor position at Westfield came through a temp agency that didn't ask questions. Dylan took it because Owen needed stability more than dignity, but he never stopped designing completely. Late at night, Dylan would make toys from scrap wood, elaborate creations far beyond what a 7-year-old needed. Each piece kept something alive inside him that probably should have died. Owen loved them, played with them until the wood wore smooth, never understanding why his father, who cleaned buildings, could make things that looked like they belonged in museums. The year-end party on December 15th was winding down when Dylan found CEO Vanessa Hart slumped alone in the parking lot by her silver Mercedes, designer heels abandoned, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Her phone lay face down, screen cracked. Nobody had stopped to help this powerful woman reduced to human vulnerability. Dylan approached slowly, and when she looked up, her gaze took several seconds to focus. "You're the janitor," she said, words thick but intelligible. "I've seen you." Dylan nodded. "Are you okay? Do you need me to call someone?" Vanessa laughed without joy. "There's no one to call." Assistant went home. Driver took the night off. Everyone assumes the CEO has people. But look, no people. The isolation in her words caught Dylan off guard. He understood that loneliness had lived inside it long enough to recognize its shape. "Let me help you get home. Where do you live?" She told him an address 30 minutes away in the Harbor District. When she tried standing, Dylan caught her elbow. "Too far," she said. "Everything's spinning." Dylan made a decision that violated every workplace boundary. "I live 10 minutes from here. You can rest at my place until you feel better. My son's there, but he's asleep. You'll be safe." Vanessa studied him through unfocused eyes, and whatever she saw satisfied her. "Okay, 10 minutes." Getting her into the Mercedes was awkward, Dylan trying to help without being inappropriate. He drove through empty streets, heart hammering, knowing this was potentially career suicide. The drive took 12 minutes. He helped Vanessa up 2 flights to Unit 212, praying Owen was still asleep. The apartment was dark except for a small lamp, furniture mismatched, walls bare except for Owen's crayon drawings. The toy shelf dominated one corner. Owen's door was closed, no light underneath. He guided Vanessa to his bedroom, and she collapsed onto the mattress. Dylan covered her with his quilt and retreated to the living room couch with a throw blanket. Sleep was impossible. By morning, she'd probably fire him. Best case, he'd be demoted. The panic was familiar, that tightening in his chest. Around 11 p.m., he heard movement. Vanessa appeared in the doorway, disoriented, blinking in the dim light. Her makeup was smeared, hair disheveled, but her eyes more focused. "Where am I?" Not accusatory, just confused. Dylan stood quickly. "My apartment. You were in the parking lot, and you said the harbor district was too far. Water, please." He brought her a glass, and she drank deeply. Then she looked around properly, her gaze traveling over the second-hand furniture, the crayon drawings, the toy shelf. She moved toward it deliberately, and Dylan's stomach dropped. Those toys were evidence of who he used to be. She picked up a wooden truck, examining the detail. Individual rivets in wheel wells, functioning suspension, tiny hinges. Then a puzzle box requiring 14 moves to open, an articulated robot dinosaur. Each piece told the same story. These were works of real craftsmanship made by someone who understood design principles. Vanessa turned, and her gaze landed on the corner wall. The bronze metal frame hung there, glass slightly cracked, hanging crooked. National Design Innovation Award, bronze medal, Consumer Products category, Dylan Foster, Henderson and Associates. 2 years ago, that award had meant everything. Now it hung in shadows like a memorial to someone dead. She walked to the frame, peered at it closely. Read the certificate, read Dylan's name. Then she turned to look at him, really look at him, seeing past the janitor uniform. Her eyes were still glassy with alcohol, but something sharp moved behind them. "You won this award. National Design Innovation. Bronze medal." "Yes," Dylan whispered. "You made these toys. For your son." "Yes." The silence stretched heavy with questions Dylan couldn't answer without unraveling his entire life. Vanessa looked from the award to the toys to Dylan to the cramped apartment. She was putting pieces together, seeing a puzzle that didn't make sense. "Why are you cleaning my building?" Her voice was still slurred, but the question cut clean. "You have this talent, this award. You won a national competition. Why are you pushing a mop?" Dylan settled for the simplest truth. "Things happened. I lost my way." Vanessa studied him for a long moment, her CEO brain working despite the champagne. She looked at the toys again, at the award, at the careful way Dylan had arranged this small life. When she spoke, her words were deliberate, chosen carefully. "Monday morning, 8 a.m. Come to my office. I'm offering you a position. Junior product designer. Starting salary $65,000. You're wasted cleaning floors. Those toys are extraordinary. That award is real. Monday, 8 a.m. The words hit Dylan like physical blows. He stood frozen, staring at this drunk woman offering him a job that made no sense, a lifeline that couldn't be real. His mouth opened but no sound came out. "I don't understand," Dylan finally managed. "You will. Monday. Don't be late." She walked back to the bedroom and closed the door. Dylan stood alone, heart racing, hands trembling, the world tilted on an axis he didn't understand. What she'd said made no sense. People didn't get second chances like this, didn't get opportunities dropped into their laps by drunk CEOs at 11 p.m. on a Friday night. But the look in her eyes had been serious. Drunk but deliberate, slurred but certain. By morning, Vanessa was gone, having called a rideshare at dawn. She left only a note on his kitchen counter. "Monday, 8 a.m., 23rd floor. This isn't a joke. VH." Dylan stood holding that note, trying to make it real. Owen shuffled out, asking why the pretty lady was there. Dylan had no good answer. The weekend crawled past. He cleaned, took Owen to the park, acted normal while his brain tried to process the impossible. At night, he pulled out his old design portfolio buried in a closet, trying to remember what confidence felt like. Monday morning arrived with winter rain. Dylan dressed in his only suit, bought for Lauren's funeral, still smelling of mothballs. The fabric pulled tight across shoulders broadened from labor. He looked in the mirror and saw a janitor pretending to be professional. Owen watched him, asking if he was nervous. "Very," Dylan admitted. His son hugged him tight. "You're the best, Daddy. You can do anything." The building looked different in daylight. Glass and steel gleaming with promise instead of harsh, fluorescent emptiness. The lobby crowded with morning arrivals, executives in expensive suits carrying confidence. Dylan felt immediately wrong. His suit too cheap, his presence an intrusion. The security guard gave him a strange look, recognizing him from night shifts. "I have a meeting with Vanessa Hart, 23rd floor." The guard checked, eyebrows rising. "You're on the list." The elevator ride felt eternal. The 23rd floor was carpeted and quiet, walls lined with modern art. Dylan's footsteps were too loud. A receptionist smiled and directed him to wait. "At 8:03, she gestured. "Miss Hart will see you now." Vanessa sat behind her desk, floor-to-ceiling windows behind her. She looked completely different from Friday night. Charcoal blazer, hair pulled back, makeup flawless. Professional armor. "Mr. Foster, please sit. I meant what I said Friday. Junior product designer, 65,000, full benefits." Dylan's throat was dry. "Why?" "Because you're talented. That award is real. Those toys show more creativity than half my team. And because I spent the weekend researching you. I know about Vincent Palmer. I know he stole your work and framed you, destroyed your reputation. That bronze award was legitimate. You were one of the most promising designers before he sabotaged you." Dylan couldn't speak. Someone knew the truth. Someone believed him. After 3 years of being branded a thief, someone had investigated and found he wasn't insane. "This won't be easy. My design team won't be happy. Russell will fight this. You'll prove yourself every day. But I'm giving you the chance. Because Friday night, I saw genuine passion. You make those toys even though nobody sees them, because you can't help yourself. That's real talent." Dylan looked at his portfolio, at 3 years of work he'd thought finished. He thought about Owen believing his father could do anything, about the bronze award waiting to mean something again. "Yes," Dylan said. "I want to start today." Vanessa smiled genuinely. "Then welcome to Westfield Industries. Let's show them what you can do." The first weeks nearly killed him. HR processed paperwork with surreal efficiency. Vanessa walked him to the 15th floor design department, introducing him to 12 designers ranging from barely concealing contempt to outright hostility. Russell Hayes was 40-something, expensive glasses, designer clothes, confidence of someone who'd never faced real failure. He shook Dylan's hand with a grip too firm, smiled with teeth that didn't reach his eyes. "So you're the mystery hire. Vanessa doesn't usually bring in designers without interviews. You must have made quite an impression." The implication hung. This was favoritism. Dylan hadn't earned this. He was here because of circumstances unrelated to talent. Other designers watched with skeptical expressions. "I worked at Henderson and Associates," Dylan offered. "I won bronze at National Design Innovation Awards 2 years ago." Russell's expression shifted. Henderson and Associates. Weren't they involved in some scandal? Designer stealing information? Dylan's stomach dropped. "That was a misunderstanding." "Cleared is a strong word," Russell interrupted smoothly. "But everyone deserves a second chance, right? Welcome to the team. Let's see what you've got." Dylan's station was in the corner, farthest from windows, closest to the humming copier. His computer was older, monitor yellowed, keyboard sticky. The message was clear. Bottom tier. Prove you're worth better. He spent days drowning. The software updated multiple times since he'd last used it. Simple tasks taking hours. No one invited him to lunch, so he sat alone while watching the camaraderie of people who belonged. That night, Dylan sat at his kitchen table, staring at tutorials, trying to relearn skills once second nature. His phone buzzed. First days are hard. Don't quit. VH. Week 1 became week 2. Dylan arrived earlier than anyone, stayed later than everyone, slowly remembering buried muscle memory. The work began making sense again. The team's hostility cooled from active to passive. They stopped making remarks, started answering questions, occasionally included him in discussions. Russell remained skeptical but fair, assigning simple tasks. Not acceptance, but tolerance. 3 weeks in, Dylan was assigned his first real project, redesigning packaging for kitchen tools. Small stakes, low visibility, testing if he'd sink or swim. Dylan poured everything into it, working through lunches and staying past midnight, applying principles learned from making Owen's toys. The final design was clean, functional, ergonomic, and cost-effective, showing innovation without being impractical. Russell reviewed it in a team meeting, projecting Dylan's mock-ups. The room was silent as he clicked through each angle. Dylan's heart hammered. This was the test that would determine if he belonged. "This is good work," Russell said finally, and Dylan's knees nearly gave out. Strong concepts, solid execution, manufacturable designs. Well done, Foster. The team murmured agreement, not enthusiastic but genuine. Dylan nodded, not trusting his voice. That night, he took Owen to the diner down the street, a celebration they could barely afford. Owen grinned with chocolate on his cheek. "Dad, you seem happy." "Are you happy?" Dylan considered seriously. Exhausted, terrified, working harder than ever, coming home too late, but designing again, using his brain for something beyond survival, building towards something instead of just enduring. "Yeah, buddy, I think I am." 6 weeks in, Vanessa called Dylan to her office. "How's it going?" she asked directly. "Good." Russell seemed satisfied. "Russell thinks you're talented but rough, which is fair. I'm giving you something bigger. We're bidding on a government contract for educational technology. Large scale, high visibility, potentially worth millions. I want you on the design team." Dylan's mouth went dry. "That's major. I've been here 6 weeks. The team barely tolerates me. We'll show everyone what I already know. That you belong here. That you're capable of major work." Her expression softened. "You can do this. I wouldn't put you on the team otherwise." Thursday's kickoff meeting outlined the specs. Educational technology for elementary schools, STEM learning, innovative design balancing engagement with educational value. Timeline aggressive. 4 months to prototype. Presentations to government evaluators in February. "This is the largest contract Westfield has pursued," Russell explained. "We're competing against 3 other firms, including Blackstone Industries. Everyone needs their best work, no weak links." Dylan was assigned interface design for core educational modules, working with programmers and child development experts. Exactly the work he'd done at Henderson and Associates, the work that earned his Bronze Award. The work Vincent had stolen. Dylan threw himself into research, spending every moment studying childhood development and educational theory. He tested concepts with Owen, watching how his 7-year-old interacted with designs, what held attention and what lost it. Owen became his most valuable consultant.
Are you all right?
"This is boring, Dad," Owen said, clicking through an early prototype. "It feels like homework pretending to be a game." "What would make it better?" Owen thought seriously. "Make it feel like exploring, like you're discovering stuff, not being taught stuff." That insight revolutionized Dylan's approach. He redesigned everything around discovery-based learning, interfaces that felt like adventures rather than lessons. Math modules became treasure hunts, science modules became experiments. Reading modules became stories where comprehension determined direction. The work consumed him completely. Dylan arrived at 6 a.m. and stayed until midnight, barely seeing Owen except for quick breakfasts where he was mentally still at work. This project was everything, the chance to prove he deserved this position. 8 weeks into development, the team reviewed work in brutal critique sessions. Dylan's turn came on a Tuesday. His prototypes played on the screen, colorful and dynamic. Russell clicked through silently, spending long minutes on each. Finally, he spoke. This is exceptional work. The discovery-based approach is innovative. The interface is intuitive. The educational value is embedded naturally. This is exactly what we need. Well done, Foster. The room erupted in agreement. After the meeting, Russell pulled him aside. I owe you an apology. I didn't think you belonged. I was wrong. You're talented, legitimately. I'm glad you're on this team. Dylan shook his hand, throat too tight. Thank you. That means everything. Development continued at brutal pace. Dylan found himself included in lunches, treated like an actual member. December became January. Prototypes became polished products. Then, 2 weeks before presentation, Vanessa called an emergency meeting. I received word about our competition. Blackstone Industries' design team will be led by Vincent Palmer. The name hit Dylan like a blow. Vincent, the man who'd destroyed his career, stolen his work. They were facing each other in direct competition. Russell spoke first. That's a problem. Vincent has a strong reputation. His work was mine, Dylan said, voice shaking. The designs that established his reputation were stolen from me. Every award he's won was built on work he framed me for leaking. He's a fraud. The room went silent. Vanessa's expression suggested she'd already known, had been waiting for Dylan to say it publicly. Can you prove that? Russell asked, not unkind. I have sketches, dated emails. Everything except credibility to make anyone believe me over him. Vanessa leaned forward. Then this is your chance to prove truth through work. Government evaluators will see both presentations blind. They'll judge on merit. If your work is better, you win. Not through accusations, but through demonstrating you're the better designer. Dylan understood. This wasn't just a contract bid. This was vindication. We're going to win this, he said. The final 2 weeks were warfare. The team worked around the clock. Dylan barely slept, running on adrenaline, pushing designs to perfection. Owen stayed with Mrs. Chen most nights. Presentation day arrived with winter rain and government officials in dark suits. The venue was a corporate conference center downtown, austere and professional. Westfield's team arrived at 7 a.m. to set up, running through the presentation repeatedly. Dylan's hands shook as he organized materials. 3 years of rage and grief compressed into 15 minutes of presentation time. Russell gave him a genuine pep talk. You've got this, Foster. Your work is excellent. Just present clearly and let the designs speak. At 8:30, the government panel arrived. 6 evaluators from the Department of Education, faces professionally blank, carrying tablets and expectations. Each company would present separately. Evaluators would ask questions, then deliberate privately. Decision in 2 weeks. Everything formal, clinical, designed to eliminate bias and focus on merit. Blackstone presented first. Dylan waited in a separate holding room, unable to see or hear, imagining Vincent's presentation. Smooth and polished, probably, built on stolen concepts. Vincent had always been talented at presenting other people's ideas as his own. 90 minutes later, a staff member called Westfield's team. Dylan walked into the presentation room on legs that felt borrowed, carrying his portfolio and prototypes, and looked up at the government panel. Neutral faces, professional distance. Then he looked to the side room where previous presenters waited, and his vision tunneled. Vincent Palmer sat there, looking exactly as Dylan remembered, confident, well-dressed, successful. Their eyes met across the space, and Vincent's expression shifted from bored to shocked to something ugly. Recognition and rage. Vincent, realizing exactly who he was competing against, the man he'd destroyed, somehow still alive professionally. Vincent stood, face red, and pointed. This is ridiculous. That man stole proprietary designs from Henderson and Associates. He was terminated for corporate espionage. Whatever he's presenting is probably stolen. The room froze. Government evaluators looked from Vincent to Dylan, confused. Russell stepped forward, voice sharp. Mr. Palmer, you're out of order. I'm protecting the integrity of this process, Vincent shot back. Dylan Foster is a known thief. Letting him present is a joke. Dylan felt 3 years of rage crystallize into perfect clarity. He set his portfolio down carefully, walked toward Vincent with measured steps, and spoke with a voice that didn't shake. You stole my work. 2 years ago at Henderson & Associates, you took my designs, leaked them to competitors, then framed me to cover your tracks. You built your entire career at Blackstone on concepts I created. The bronze award I won was legitimate, and you tried to destroy me because you knew I was better than you. Today, these evaluators will see both our designs blind. They'll judge on merit, not reputation. And when my work is better than yours, when it's clearly, obviously better, everyone will understand exactly what kind of designer you really are. Vincent's face went purple. That's a lie. You were terminated for cause. Everyone knows the story you told, Dylan interrupted. But today, they'll see the truth through work. The government panel exchanged glances. The lead evaluator spoke. Gentlemen, this is inappropriate. Mr. Palmer, return to the waiting room. Mr. Foster, if you're ready, please present. Vincent left slowly, face twisted with rage and fear. Dylan returned to his position, hands no longer shaking. The rage had burned away, leaving only cold determination. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to show you something revolutionary. The presentation flowed like water. Dylan explained the discovery-based philosophy, demonstrated interface prototypes, showed videos of real children including Owen interacting with modules. He walked through educational psychology behind each choice, cost efficiency, scalability for nationwide implementation. He spoke about what children needed to thrive, about making learning feel like play, about creating tools teachers would love and students would beg to use. The prototypes were extraordinary. Discovery-based approach was innovative, execution flawless, educational value integrated naturally so kids learned without realizing they were taught. This was everything Dylan had been capable of before Vincent destroyed him, refined through 3 years of survival and fatherhood. This was his best work, presented when it mattered most. Questions came rapid fire, technical and philosophical, and Dylan answered each with confidence born from knowing his designs inside out. He made himself vulnerable in ways professionally risky, but authentic in ways Vincent could never fake. When it ended, the room was silent. Then the lead evaluator nodded, making notes. Thank you, Mr. Foster. We'll be in touch. Dylan gathered materials and left, passing Vincent in the hallway. They stopped, face to face. 3 years of history compressed into one moment. Vincent looked older up close, successful but exhausted, wearing achievements like armor that didn't fit. You should have stayed gone, Vincent said quietly. No, Dylan replied, voice steady. Letting you win was the mistake. Today I stopped making it. He walked away without looking back. Outside, rain poured cold and cleansing. Westfield's team gathered under the overhang, and Russell clapped Dylan's shoulder with genuine approval. That was masterful. If we don't win, it won't be because of your presentation. Vanessa stood slightly apart, watching Dylan with an expression he couldn't read. When their eyes met, she nodded once, a gesture communicating something deeper than words. She'd given him this chance, believed when no one else would, and he'd proved her instinct correct. Whatever the outcome, that validation was real. 2 weeks of waiting felt like drowning. Dylan tried to focus on other projects but kept replaying the presentation, wondering if he'd done enough. Owen noticed his distraction, asked questions Dylan couldn't answer. The design team was equally anxious, everyone waiting for the same phone call, the same verdict that would define them. On a Tuesday afternoon, 2 weeks and 3 days after the presentation, Vanessa's assistant called Dylan to the 23rd floor. His heart hammered as he rode up. Knowing this had to be the decision, Vanessa sat behind her desk, expression carefully neutral. Dylan couldn't read her face. He sat without being invited. The government made their decision. They're announcing it at a press conference in 2 hours. I wanted to tell you first. She smiled. The first genuine smile since that Friday night. We won. They chose Westfield Industries. They chose your design. The words didn't register immediately. 1. His designs had beaten Vincent's. The government had judged his work superior. After 3 years of being labeled a thief, professional evaluators had declared Dylan better. Are you sure? Dylan whispered. The evaluators specifically cited your discovery-based approach and authentic understanding of child development. They said your presentation was the most compelling they'd seen. Her smile widened. You did it, Dylan. You proved you're exceptional. Dylan walked to the window, stared out at the city. Somewhere Vincent was receiving the same news, understanding he'd lost to the man he'd tried to destroy. What happens to Vincent? Blackstone will announce his termination tomorrow. I submitted evidence to their board proving he stole your work. They investigated and confirmed everything. His career is finished. Several industry publications are preparing exposés. He'll never work as a designer again. Dylan should have felt triumphant, but only felt exhausted. Revenge wasn't sweet, just necessary but hollow. I need to pick up my son. Can I tell him? Tell everyone. This is your victory, Dylan. You earned every bit of it. Dylan left at 3 p.m., drove to Owen's school. When Owen emerged, Dylan knelt and hugged his son tight. Guess what, buddy? We won. Owen pulled back, confused. Won what? Everything, Dylan said, crying right there. 3 years finally released. We won everything. That night, Dylan told Owen everything in kid-appropriate terms. About Daddy's designs, the bad man who stole them, the kind woman who gave Daddy another chance, how today Daddy proved he was good at what he did. Owen listened, then asked what mattered. Are you still sad? Daddy, Dylan thought honestly. Lauren was gone. That grief permanent. 3 years stolen, unrecoverable. But sitting here with Owen, working a job he loved, having proved his worth he wasn't sad. Not sad. Tired, but not sad. There's a difference. The press conference next day was surreal. Vanessa stood at the podium explaining the contract. Then she called Dylan forward. I want to recognize Dylan Foster, our lead designer. This contract was won because of his innovative vision. Dylan represents what Westfield values: creativity, integrity, excellence. Dylan stood next to her, cameras flashing, impossibly visible. One reporter asked about Henderson and Associates. Dylan answered carefully. That experience taught me valuable lessons about perseverance. Sometimes the path forward requires going through darkness first. I'm grateful to Vanessa Hart and Westfield for the opportunity to demonstrate what I'm capable of. After, Russell pulled Dylan aside. You're being promoted to senior product designer, effective immediately. Salary $90,000, plus bonuses. You've earned this, Foster. That evening, Dylan stood in his apartment, the same cramped space where Vanessa had woken up drunk 6 months ago, and looked at his toy shelf. The wooden creations were still there. Evidence of who he'd been when he had nothing left but the need to create. He picked up Thunder, Owen's favorite truck, and examined the details he'd carved into wood because he couldn't help himself. These toys had saved him, Dylan realized, when everything else was gone, when his career was destroyed and his reputation was ruined and he couldn't see any path forward. Making toys for Owen had kept the designer inside him alive. These weren't just gifts for his son. They were prayers carved in wood, hopes made tangible, faith that someday his hands would make things that mattered again. Owen came running from his room, excited about something on TV. He saw Dylan holding Thunder and smiled that gap-toothed smile that made everything worthwhile. That's my favorite, Owen said. You made it when I was little. You're still little, buddy. I'm 7. That's almost grown up. Owen took Thunder, rolled it across the floor. Are you going to keep making toys now that you have the big job? Dylan considered the question seriously. Would he keep making toys? The work at Westfield was consuming, left little energy for personal projects, but looking at Owen playing with Thunder, Seeing the joy these simple wooden objects brought, Dylan knew he couldn't stop. These toys were part of who he was now, part of the man he'd become through survival. "Yeah," Dylan said. "I'll keep making them. For you, and maybe for other kids too." The following week, Vanessa called Dylan to her office for what he assumed was a project assignment. Instead, she gestured to the chair across from her desk, expression more personal than professional. "I want to thank you," she said without preamble. "6 months ago, you made a choice that changed everything. You could have walked past me in that parking lot, could have let someone else deal with the drunk CEO. Instead, you helped me when you had every reason not to." Dylan shifted uncomfortably. Anyone would have done the same. No, they wouldn't. Dozens of people walked past me that night. You were the only one who stopped. Vanessa leaned forward. "You drove me to your home, took care of me, protected me despite the massive professional risk. And when I woke up and saw those toys, saw that award, I knew I was looking at someone who'd been broken but hadn't given up. That mattered to me. You gave me everything," Dylan said quietly. "You believed in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. I gave you an opportunity. You did the work. You proved you deserved it." Vanessa smiled. That night, we were both alone and lost in our own ways. Maybe we helped each other. Dylan thought about that Friday night, about finding Vanessa in a parking lot, about the choice to stop instead of walking past, about how small decisions cascaded into life-changing consequences, how helping someone could save them both. Vanessa had been successful but lonely, powerful but isolated. He'd been struggling but kind, broken but capable. Together, they'd found something neither could have found alone, proof that people could still be good to each other, that second chances were real if someone brave enough offered them. "Thank you," Dylan said, and meant it for everything. For the job offer made drunk at 11 p.m., for the research she'd done that weekend, for the faith she'd maintained despite her design team's skepticism, for giving him back his career, his dignity, his sense of purpose, for seeing past the janitor uniform to the designer underneath. "You're welcome," Vanessa replied. "Now get back to work. We have a government contract to deliver." 6 months later, on a Friday evening in June, Dylan stood in Westfield's main conference room celebrating the successful educational technology implementation. Government evaluators praised execution. Teachers loved the interface. Children were learning while believing they were playing. Owen was there too, running with Russell's daughter. No longer the quiet child who'd learned silence. Owen was loud now, confident, secure. That transformation meant more than any professional success. Vanessa approached. "Congratulations, Dylan. Everything you've built is extraordinary. We built it. None of this happens without you taking a chance on a janitor in a parking lot. Or maybe because you refused to let lies define you. Because you kept designing toys when you had no reason to believe anyone would see them. Because talent finds a way." Dylan thought about that November night, about the choice to stop instead of walking past, about Vanessa waking at 11 p.m., seeing toys and an award, asking why he was cleaning her building, about what she said that evening, the job offer that made no sense, the promise that rebuilt his shattered life. Sometimes redemption came from a stranger's kindness on a cold night, from someone seeing value others missed, from a drunk woman asking the right question at exactly the right moment. Owen ran over, hugging Dylan's leg, asked if they could go home. Dylan lifted his son, felt the solid weight of him, thought about wooden toys waiting, about the bronze award that finally meant something again. "Yeah, buddy. Let's go home." They left together, walking through the building Dylan used to clean at night, past offices where he'd once been invisible, through halls where he now belonged, into evening air that smelled like summer and possibility. That night, after Owen slept, Dylan sat at his kitchen table with sketch paper, designing a new toy, something elaborate, requiring skills rebuilt through necessity. The bronze award hung above him, no longer hidden but displayed openly, evidence of who he'd been and proof of who he'd become again. His phone buzzed. "Proud of you, Dylan. You've come so far. V." He typed back. "We both have." "Thank you for seeing what I couldn't see myself," her response. Sometimes we're blind to our own value until someone else points it out. That night, we did that for each other. Dylan returned to sketches, hands moving with confidence built from failure and resurrection. The toy took shape, a wooden dragon with articulated wings. Owen would love it. That was enough. That had always been enough. Even when Dylan thought his career was over. Making things for his son, maintaining the designer inside when the world insisted he was just a janitor that had saved him more than any job offer. But the job offer had helped. And Vanessa's faith, drunk but sincere at 11 p.m. on a Friday night, had given him the chance to prove talent was real, that theft could be overcome, that second chances existed if someone brave enough believed in them. Through his window, Dylan could see lights in neighbors' apartments, other families living their lives, everyone fighting battles invisible to observers, everyone needing someone to see past surfaces to value underneath, needing someone to stop instead of walking past, needing someone to offer chances that didn't make logical sense. Dylan had been given that gift. Now he spent every day trying to deserve it. By 3 a.m., Dylan had the dragon finished, sanded smooth, ready for paint. Owen would wake in hours, rush to see what his father made, hold the dragon with reverence children reserved for treasured objects, and Dylan would watch his son play, grateful for everything that led to this moment. Grateful for the CEO who'd been drunk enough to be vulnerable, sober enough to recognize talent, brave enough to take a risk on a janitor who made extraordinary toys. What she said that evening had left him speechless. An offer that made no sense, a promise that could rebuild or destroy, a chance he hadn't dared imagine. But Vanessa had seen something in those toys, and that forgotten award, had understood talent didn't disappear just because someone tried to bury it, had believed Dylan deserved better than floors to clean and dreams to abandon. She'd been right. He had deserved better. More importantly, he'd been capable of better once given the chance. The government contract was earned through hard work, innovative thinking, and authentic passion. Vincent's theft had delayed Dylan's success but couldn't prevent it, because real talent always found a way. Dylan stood, looked at the wooden dragon waiting for paint. Beautiful and functional. Exactly what he was capable of creating when he remembered who he really was. Not a janitor who used to design, a designer who'd temporarily cleaned buildings while waiting for someone to see him again. Vanessa had seen him. Owen had never stopped believing. Russell and the team eventually recognized him, and gradually, Dylan had learned to see himself clearly not through Vincent's lies but through evidence of his own work. The sun rose over the city, light filtering through Dylan's kitchen window, illuminating the dragon and the bronze award and sketch paper covered in tomorrow's creations. Another day waited, full of projects and opportunities. Another day with Owen, with meaningful work, with the life he'd fought to rebuild from ruins. Dylan Foster made coffee, checked on his sleeping son, and prepared for whatever came next. The past couldn't be changed. Vincent's betrayal would always hurt. Lauren's death would always leave a hole nothing could fill. But the present was real. The future was possible. And sometimes that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.